They say you should face your fears to overcome them. But what if your worst fear doesn't just stare back? It follows you, haunts you, waits for you to look away. For one woman terrified of clowns, joining a circus was supposed to be her biggest step toward freedom. But in the heart of the circus, surrounded by painted smiles and twisting shadows, her nightmare truly begins. Imagine waking up each morning surrounded by the thing that unsettles you the most. For Jane, that thing is clowns. Something about their painted faces, the eerie, unchanging grins, their eyes staring straight into hers with that haunting, silent glee. But as fate would have it, life has a twisted sense of humor. Jobless and desperate, Jane finds herself joining a traveling circus, where she's forced to face her deepest fear up close, every single night. Jane hadn't always been afraid of clowns. She could remember going to the circus as a child and feeling the thrill of the colorful lights, the acrobats soaring above, the performers in wild costumes. But that changed when she turned 9. It was at a birthday party, a seemingly innocent day, where a clown named Merry Max entertained the kids. Max had taken a special liking to Jane, following her around, his smile a little too wide, his laugh lingering in the air a little too long. By the time the party ended, Jane had been left trembling. She couldn't remember exactly what he'd said to her, but his words, the feeling of his presence, had stuck with her. Since then, the sight of a clown was enough to send chills down her spine. Now, years later, Jane is in her 20s and struggling to make ends meet. She's been laid off, her rent's due, and her last interview had ended with polite rejections. Then she finds a strange ad online, a traveling circus looking for a stagehand. No experience needed. The pay isn't great, but it's enough. With little other choice, she applies. When she gets the call back, the hiring manager tells her they're heading out the next day. She's hesitant, but desperation wins. Jane arrives at the circus grounds late at night, greeted by a maze of old tents, rusty trailers, and the smell of popcorn and smoke. Her first introduction to the performers comes the next morning when she's introduced to the crew, including a group of clowns. Each has a different look, some with exaggerated, painted-on grins, others with frowns or bizarre expressions. But one clown stands out. Giggles, they call him. Unlike the others, Giggles doesn't smile. His face is painted white with black teardrops under his eyes, his expression distant and somber. As he walks past her, he nods without a word, but Jane feels the hairs on the back of her neck stand up. Her tasks are simple at first, sweeping, setting up props, and watching the show from the shadows behind the curtains. But every night, she finds herself dreading one specific act: the clown's performance. She can't help but watch them from the darkness, their movements strangely hypnotic, their grins sharp and glistening under the lights. And every night, she notices Giggles, watching her from the edge of the ring. One evening, as she's packing up the props, she hears something behind her, a quiet chuckle, deep and throaty, that sends a shiver down her spine. She turns quickly, but no one's there. She brushes it off as exhaustion, but the feeling doesn't leave her. The days blur together as Jane falls into the circus routine. She learns to handle her nerves around the clowns. At least, she tells herself she has. But then strange things start happening. Small things go missing from her bag, like her hairbrush and a bracelet her mother gave her. She finds footprints leading to her tent at night. Small, with a smear of red paint at the edge, like a clown's shoe would leave. Each morning, she wakes up feeling more and more drained, like someone's been watching her as she sleeps. One night, after another exhausting show, Jane decides to confront her fear. She's heard of desensitization therapy and figures if she spends some time around the clowns, she might be able to overcome her phobia. She waits until the lights are out and the performers have gone back to their trailers. She walks to the clown's tent, heart pounding, and pushes the flap open. Inside it's dark, the air thick with the smell of makeup and powder. She sees costumes hung on racks, the gaudy colors muted in the darkness. But then she hears something, a whisper, followed by a low giggle, coming from the far corner of the tent. "Jane, come play with us." The voice is familiar like Mary Max's, but warped and distorted. Her breath catches and she steps back, only to feel something cold and wet on her shoulder. She spins around to find herself face to face with Giggles, his expression twisted into a horrifying grin. His face painted with smears of red and black, leans in close, his breath hot against her cheek as he whispers, "Aren't you having fun, Jane?" She screams. Essen stumbles backward, tripping over something soft. When she looks down, she realizes it's her missing bracelet, tangled in the folds of a clown costume. She scrambles out of the tent, her heart racing, the sound of the clown's laughter echoing behind her. After that night, Jane can't sleep. She knows she has to leave, but every attempt to quit is met with laughter, a knowing smile from the ringmaster, or a gentle shake of the head. It's as if the circus itself won't let her go. The other clowns watch her with those painted eyes, their grins wider, sharper. Giggles never speaks, but she always feels him close by, his presence heavy and unrelenting. One night, she decides to run. She waits until the camp is quiet, slipping out of her tent with nothing but the clothes on her back. She's halfway across the grounds when she hears it. A soft, familiar chuckle, like a nightmare come to life. Turning slowly, she finds Giggles standing there, his head tilted, a painted tear rolling down his cheek. He raises a gloved hand and waves, his fingers curling in an unsettlingly slow motion, as if to say goodbye, or to invite her back. Jane breaks into a sprint, the darkness swallowing her whole as the circus fades into the distance. But even after she escapes, she can't shake the feeling that they're still watching her. Every night, she hears that soft laughter in the silence, a haunting reminder that some nightmares never truly end. If you want to hear more terrifying tales, make sure to subscribe or watch the next video if you dare.